Here are the 10 common misconceptions about weight loss, with the last one still being a pitfall for 99% of people. Datus 1. Eating smaller, more frequent meals boosts metabolism. Many people believe that eating small, frequent meals keeps the body in a constant digestive state, thereby significantly increasing energy metabolism. However, a large meta-analysis found that whether you eat all your meals in one sitting or spread them throughout the day, as long as the total caloric intake is the same, there is no difference in metabolic rate. 2. Eating late at night makes you gain more weight. This belief has been debunked by numerous studies. The conclusion is that meal timing has no relation to weight loss. In fact, some research shows that eating carbohydrates at night can even be beneficial for weight loss and hormone regulation. Therefore, it's perfectly fine to have a late dinner as long as your total daily caloric intake is less than what you burn. However, avoid staying up too late or snacking on junk food. Turner 3. Dieting will lower your metabolism. It was once believed that dieting or fasting would put your body into starvation mode, causing permanent metabolic damage. However, research by Mio Hansemans and his team disproved this theory. Their studies showed that there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that dieting causes permanent metabolic slowdown. 4. Obese people gain weight because of slow metabolism. The opposite is true. The heavier you are, the higher your resting metabolism. In other words, overweight people generally have faster metabolisms than those maintaining a healthy weight. While overweight individuals might have thyroid issues that slow down metabolism, being overweight itself is not proof of a slow metabolism. Turner 5. Intermittent fasting helps with weight loss. I personally like intermittent fasting patterns such as 16-8, but it's just a dietary pattern, not a specific diet plan. The primary benefit of intermittent fasting is not weight loss. As long as caloric intake is equal, it doesn't matter if you spread it out or consume it in a couple of meals. A systematic review concluded that for reducing weight and fat, intermittent fasting is similar to regular caloric restriction, and it doesn't provide any unique biological advantages for weight loss. However, for some people, intermittent fasting may help reduce daily caloric intake, aiding in weight loss, while others might end up eating more due to hunger, so it's best to follow your own body's signals. 6. Fat can turn into muscle. This is impossible. Some people might burn fat while gaining a small amount of muscle simultaneously, usually in the first few months of training and dieting when their muscles are more responsive. This coincidence can lead beginners to mistakenly believe that fat can turn into muscle, but it's not possible. Narc 7. Ab exercises reduce belly fat. No matter how many crunches you do, your belly fat will remain unchanged. Numerous studies since 2011 have shown that you cannot target body fat through specific exercises. Participants in these studies did 4 hours of ab training per week for 6 weeks, yet there was no reduction in abdominal fat. Measurements of weight, body fat percentage, waist circumference, or abdominal skin folds showed no changes. To get a slim waist, you need to reduce overall body fat. 8. Cheat meals boost metabolism. While cheat meals can help some people better control their appetite, they can have the opposite effect for others, leading to binge eating. You don't need to add cheat meals to boost metabolism, as research shows that even with a large caloric surplus, daily energy expenditure only increased by 7%. Instead of relying on cheat meals, try finding a dietary pattern that keeps you comfortable. 9. A fat loss diet must be either low fat or low carb. Many studies show that with the same caloric intake, the ratio of carbohydrates to fats in the diet does not affect weight and fat loss. Keto and low carb diets have no particular advantage for weight loss. If you prefer eating carbs, a very low carb diet might be unsustainable for you. Dark 10. Fasted cardio burns more fat. Researchers divided 20 participants into 2 groups, both maintaining a daily caloric deficit of 500 calories. The only difference was that one group did 3 one-hour sessions of fasted cardio per week, while the other group did the same amount of cardio after eating. After 4 weeks, there was no difference in fat loss between the 2 groups. The conclusion was that as long as your exercise volume and caloric deficit are the same, it doesn't matter whether you exercise on an empty stomach or after eating. The last misconception is that weight loss requires aerobic exercise. A meta-analysis involving 14 studies and over 1,800 obese individuals found that for obese people, aerobic exercise alone is not an effective weight loss method. Another analysis focusing on aerobic exercise found that, with the same caloric deficit, adding aerobic exercise was not more effective than diet alone for weight loss. The only difference was that those who added cardio lost 11 kilograms, while those who only controlled their diet lost 10.7 kilograms. For some people, combining exercise with diet control can increase the desire to eat, making it harder to stick to the diet. If you do choose to exercise, focus on strength training, as it not only increases energy expenditure, like aerobic exercise, but also signals the body to retain muscle, resulting in a healthier and more aesthetically pleasing body composition. I hope this clears up some of the common misconceptions about weight loss and helps you on your journey. Understanding the core logic of weight loss. The aesthetics of our body depend on muscle, while the amount of fat determines how lean we appear. Therefore, the essence of weight loss should be to reduce fat while preserving as much muscle as possible, resulting in a healthier and more attractive appearance. The first step in weight loss is to reduce body weight. When the energy we consume is less than the energy we burn, we enter a state of caloric deficit, where the energy burned includes our basal metabolic rate and additional activities. When there's a caloric deficit, the body starts breaking down stored energy, leading to weight loss. However, this doesn't determine which tissues are reduced. Caloric deficit only decides the overall weight loss. Ideally, fat should be reduced rather than muscle and other tissues, so interventions are needed to maintain muscle mass. Star 1. Adopting a conservative caloric deficit. Generally, the slower the weight loss, the higher the proportion of fat lost as more muscle is preserved. For example, a study analyzed the effects of fast and slow weight loss during training on body composition. Both groups lost the same total weight, but the slow weight loss group actually gained a bit of muscle mass, meaning a higher proportion of the lost weight was fat. Conversely, the fast weight loss group lost more muscle, with a lower proportion of fat. Additionally, slower weight loss is easier to sustain since a larger caloric deficit leads to stronger hunger, irritability, and fatigue, making the dieting process unsustainable. Therefore, a conservative caloric deficit is recommended, maintained under good living, emotional, and training conditions. 2. Total daily protein intake. Simply consuming protein isn't enough to help retain muscle, but combined with training, it increases the proportion of fat burned. For instance, a study investigated the effect of protein intake on body composition during the same caloric deficit. While participants lost the same total weight, the group with a high protein intake of 2.4 grams per kilogram per day slightly increased muscle mass. Thus, during a caloric deficit, higher protein intake can benefit muscle growth or retention. It's recommended to consume at least 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, or more if possible. Star 3. Training interventions. General training includes strength training, aerobic exercise, or general physical activities. To maximize fat loss, focus on strength training, specifically resistance training aimed at muscle hypertrophy. Resistance training provides the stimulus needed for muscle growth or retention during a caloric deficit. Without this stimulus, the body has no reason to retain muscle tissue. A study compared the effects of resistance training and no resistance training during a caloric deficit on body composition. It showed that the group performing resistance training lost more fat and gained more muscle compared to the non-training group. Resistance training combined with a high-protein diet yielded even better results. Another beneficial exercise form for weight loss is aerobic exercise or general physical activity. These methods increase overall energy expenditure without targeting body composition changes. However, exercise alone is not as effective as we might think for creating a caloric deficit. For example, it takes about 30 minutes of fast running to burn off the calories from one bun. Therefore, diet should be the primary factor in creating a caloric deficit. These activities can allow for more food intake at the same caloric deficit, so they can be moderately added. Whether it's specialized aerobic exercise or walking in the supermarket, the simplest and most universal quantification method is step counting. Less than 5,000 steps a day represents low physical activity, around 10,000 steps is moderate activity, 15,000 steps is high-level activity, and more than 15,000 steps represents very high activity. For fat loss, the more energy burned, the better, but increasing physical activity may sometimes require significant time and effort, making it easier to achieve a caloric deficit by eating a little less. Therefore, it's generally recommended to aim for moderate physical activity, about 7,500 steps a day, to help with the caloric deficit. How to effectively diet and train for weight loss. Weight loss involves three main aspects: creating a caloric deficit based on body fat percentage, training to maintain muscle mass, and ensuring adequate nutrition. 1. Creating a caloric deficit based on body fat percentage. The higher your body fat percentage, the larger your caloric deficit can be. If you don't know your current body fat percentage, you can roughly estimate it using a reference chart. For men with a body fat percentage over 26% or women over 39%, it's recommended to reduce caloric intake by 40%, 50%. For men between 21-26% or women between 33-39%, reduce by 30%, 40%. For men between 14-21% or women between 24% 33%, reduce by 20%, 30%. For men between 10-14% or women between 4% 24%, reduce by 5-20%. If you're starting with a higher body weight, don't worry about losing muscle due to a large deficit. As long as you consume enough protein, train, and get adequate sleep, muscle loss will be minimal. For example, a study found that men and women who reduced their diet by 800 calories per day and performed strength training 3 times a week for 12 weeks maintained their muscle mass. Another study showed that severely obese men who reduced their intake by 1,000 calories per day and did strength training 3 times a week lost over 20 pounds of fat while maintaining muscle mass. 2. Training to maintain muscle mass. Maintaining muscle mass during weight loss is crucial for aesthetics and long-term weight management, as more muscle increases metabolism and insulin sensitivity. Apart from consuming enough protein, the best way to prevent muscle loss is to maintain your strength levels. It's natural to feel weaker during dieting, but the goal is to minimize this effect. You can achieve this by trying to use the same weights you normally use. The only reason to reduce weights is if your reps fall below your usual range. For example, if you typically do 6 to 10 reps, try to maintain that range even while dieting. If you can't reach 6 reps, reduce the weight by 2.5 kilograms. However, make every effort to maintain the same weight load throughout your weight loss process. Don't automatically reduce weights due to fatigue from dieting. 3. Ensuring adequate nutrition. Almost all vitamins and minerals impact your weight loss results in some way. For instance, iodine is crucial for thyroid hormones that affect metabolism. Calcium helps with fat cell metabolism and weight loss. Zinc deficiency can affect your weight, as shown in a case where a woman increased her resting metabolic rate by 527 calories per day by addressing her zinc deficiency through diet. Iron is essential for energy production, enhancing exercise performance. A lack of iron can decrease muscle endurance, fatigue resistance, and strength. Vitamin D deficiency can stimulate appetite, leading to obesity. Vitamin D is primarily obtained from sunlight, while other nutrients require a diverse diet. A common recommendation is to consume 5 different colors of vegetables daily, as most trace elements and minerals come from vegetables. Vegetables are filling and low in calories. If you focus on vegetables and protein in your diet, your weight loss process will be more comfortable and satisfying. The balance of fats and carbohydrates. This is the least important factor. Apart from the total calories from daily protein intake, the proportion of carbohydrates and fats in your diet does not affect weight loss results. A study compared the effects of high-carb, low-fat diets with low-carb, high-fat diets on weight loss and body composition, and found that as long as there was a caloric deficit, the results were the same. For further understanding, you can refer to the previous video for a clearer comprehension of weight loss.